So ever since I did my video on the DJI Ronin S and the Crane 2, I get companies who try to send me gimbals all the time. And a lot of times, I don't even really want to consider their gimbals because they seem really cheap and they really don't bring anything new to the table. But today, we're going to be taking a look at a gimbal that I not only think is just at the same bar as the Ronin S and the Crane 2, but in a lot of ways, it's actually a little bit better. This is the Ak4000. What's good, creative fam? Brandon Washington here, and first of all, if you're brand new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because this channel is all about filmmaking gear, tips, and tutorials. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Feiyu-Tech Ak4000. Now, a couple weeks ago, the Feiyu reached out to me with this really cool gimbal and was like, hey, we'd love to send you this gimbal and have you test it out and possibly make a video on it. So reluctantly, I looked at their website, decided I'd check it out, and actually was really surprised with how awesome this gimbal seemed to be. But it almost seemed to over-promise, and I was really afraid it would under-deliver. So I decided, what the heck, go ahead and send it out, and I wanted to take a look at it. So this is it here. This is the Ak4000. Now, this is one of their newest gimbals, and one of the cool things about this gimbal, at least in their lineup, is this is actually one of their first heavy payload gimbals. So what I mean by that is this thing can handle up to 8.8 pounds or 4 kilograms, which means this thing not only is going to be able to support all your mirrorless and most of your DSLRs, but it's also going to be able to support your heavier DSLRs like the 1DX Mark II, and I've even seen this thing rigged out with a red on it on their website. Now, this thing isn't just about being able to handle heavy payloads, but this thing also has a nice 12-hour battery, so not quite as good as the Ronin S, but honestly, I've never had to shoot with a gimbal more than 12 hours, so I think that's way above what we actually probably need. On top of that, this thing has a lot of unique features. Probably one of the first things you guys notice is that this thing not only has a screen on it, but this is actually a touch screen. So that's something that was brand new and one of the main reasons why I wanted to check this thing out. The other thing was that this thing had a lot of unique features as far as shooting capabilities that I had seen in some gimbals and I hadn't seen in others. For example, it has the infinite roll feature that, trust me, we're gonna get to in a little bit, but it also had this other weird mode called all follow mode, which allowed for you to actually flip this thing sideways. And the first time I saw this in action, I completely thought that like the person had dropped the gimbal, but this is something that they actually added to the gimbal in order to give you a kind of unique and a little bit more creativity when you're out there shooting. Now, this thing works phenomenally in the all follow mode, but I still honestly am not 100% sure how I want to use it, but I think it can make for some really cool transitions, and it just allows you to be more creative with the gimbal. Now, as far as connection goes, this thing connects not only to a phone app via Bluetooth, but it also connects to the camera via Wi-Fi. Now, this is something that I hadn't seen with any other gimbal yet that I've tested. For example, with the Crane, it had a cable that you had to plug into it. The Ronin had a cable that you had to plug into the camera, and you had to hope that your camera was actually compatible with the actual gimbal. Well, in this way, they actually have it set up to connect via Wi-Fi. Now, the nice part is you can still attach a cable if you want to, but you can control everything wirelessly. So that means if you forget that cable, no issues. You can still control all of your settings like your aperture, your shutter speed, your ISO, all your white balance. I mean, all those things directly through the actual gimbal itself using the touch feature. It just takes a couple swipes to the left and you can start controlling all that stuff easily. Now, another nice little feature is, although yes, you can use the app, you don't have to. All the settings that you would want to change in the app, you can actually change directly through the touchscreen itself. So, I mean, these are all just a few of the things without even actually getting out and shooting with it that made me say, okay, this is a gimbal I had to give a shot. Now, just like I did with the DJI Ronin S, the infinite roll is probably one of my favorite things that gimbals can do nowadays. I absolutely love that shot and all the different ways you can use it. I've used it in like professional gigs, and I've used it for fun, like when I did my actual little Stranger Things vibe. But you know what? When I got this gimbal, I thought to myself, well, I still love Stranger Things, and I did just get a new Stranger Things little sweatshirt for my ugly sweater for Christmas. So you know what the heck, let's go out with my new hoodie or my new sweatshirt and do some infinite roll tests with this gimbal. Alright, so we're out here. It's super cold, but this is so we can do the, what's it called? The infinity roll, yeah. So this is the Stranger Things infinity roll. Now in the last video y'all saw I shot out here, same thing with the Ronin S. So now we're basically bringing this gimbal out here so we can see if this actually does as good a job or possibly even better, because this has the exact same feature. So let's test it out and see how it looks. By the way, I got a new sweater just for this shot. So keep with the Stranger Things theme. Let's run it. You know, as far as the infinite roll goes with this gimbal, it was actually super easy to set up, and with the knob having like this really cool little indicator whenever you're pushing it to the right or to the left, and having like a nice little LED readout, it makes it easy to make sure that you're keeping your axis perfectly fine. On top of that, you can actually speed up and slow down this infinite roll, which makes it really cool. Now DJI did just come up with a couple updates on their infinite roll, which does take that one kind of to the next level, but I have to say for this gimbal, I think the infinite roll worked great. So the last couple of really cool things about this gimbal that I had to quickly touch on, because they're not big things, but they're really little things that make a big difference. I mean, they obviously have come out with their gimbal much later in the game than, you know, Zhiyun has, or with the DJI Ronin S had already been out. So they definitely took a lot of cues from those gimbals. For example, having the bar a lot lower so you don't have any like disruption between the screen and you being able to see it is really nice. On top of that, all the other gimbals have been coming with these little tripod legs for you to be able to sit your gimbal down, but they've actually gone ahead and put some 1/4-20 threads, I think that's the right number, on the actual gimbal, so that way you can attach your monitor directly to the tripod legs. Again, kind of taking some cues from the DJI Ronin S. The case is really nice and easy to actually pack away. Now obviously there is no perfect like gimbal that you can just use it and run out there and just be getting amazing shots. I actually did a whole video on how to get better shots using a gimbal. Y'all can check out the link to that up there. But I will say that I could put this gimbal in someone's hands and they would be able to get decent shots immediately, and especially if they took a couple of those little cues from that video, they'd be taking amazing shots in no time. And then continuing along with one more awesome feature about this thing is that this thing not only has all the touchscreens and everything, but it also has a follow focus, just like we're seeing on a lot of gimbals today. Now the one thing that this thing does do a little bit different when it comes to the follow focus dial is it's not just a follow focus dial. You can use this thing to actually navigate through your settings. You can also use it to actually control like the pan and the tilt and the actual like all the different axes of the gimbal. So what they've gone ahead and done with this thing is made it more useful. I mean, when I first got my Ronin S, the follow focus didn't work for Canon, so I pretty much took it off altogether. But with this thing, even if you don't plan on using it as a focus dial, you can still use it in tons of other ways. So since this video is not sponsored and they did not pay me to make this video, I am completely free to say and speak my mind, especially about this next part. And that's, who is this gimbal for? You know, honestly, since this gimbal is basically a direct competitor with like the Zhiyun Crane 2 and the DJI Ronin S, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking at this in comparison to those. And honestly, for the price, this is a phenomenal gimbal. I didn't even get a chance to tell you guys the best part. This gimbal comes in at only $5.99, and that's actually with the focus dial as well. And I'll have links to that down below in Amazon, because on Amazon they're actually giving that away with it. And you know, you got the Crane 2 coming in at like $50 more than that, and then you also have obviously the Ronin S that comes in at a little bit more than both of those. So for the price, with the capacity that this thing can handle, with the touchscreen, with all the cool little extra features like infinite roll and the all follow mode and all the other basic things you'd expect to get out of the gimbal, this is honestly probably the best bang for your buck gimbal. Now, there are reasons why certain people are still gonna go with the Ronins. For example, it has, you know, a lot of professional accessories that you can buy to go alongside it. However, I will say that if you are someone who's looking for a well-priced gimbal and wants to be able to get something awesome out of it and get really good and professional looking shots, this is definitely the way to go. And just to make things even better, not only do they have the AK4000, but they also have the AK2000, which is basically just like the little brother of this gimbal. So if you're shooting on like a crop censored body type camera, like an 80D or a Sony a6500 or a6000 or like a small Panasonic, then you honestly should probably consider even going with the AK2000, because yes, it has a smaller, you know, payload, but with that being said, it really seems to have everything else that the AK4000 has. It still has the touchscreen, it still has all the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth features, and it still has all the same shooting modes. So, you know, Feiyu is doing a phenomenal job with giving us two awesome gimbals at two awesome price points, depending on what type of camera you're using. And honestly, if you are looking for a great gimbal, especially around the holiday time, this might just be the right one. So there you have it, guys. If you have any additional questions about this gimbal, obviously the longer I have it, the more I'm going to be able to shoot with it and give you guys more insight on it. And trust me, I do plan on doing full-on comparisons against this and the Ronin S and the Crane 2, which, like I said already, I do have both of those gimbals as well. Definitely leave me actually any additional questions y'all have down below in the comments. On top of that, if you guys did like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button, because I actually just looked at my analytics and like 76% of the people who watch my video aren't even subscribed. So what are you guys doing? Hit the subscribe button, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.